Yo, my YouTube family, what's going on? Peace and love to all the kings and queens out there, everybody out there trying to make it, doing their thing. I got nothing but respect for you. In this video, I wanted to, explain my story, my journey through the Georgia prison system. I did 12 years to the door from January 5th, 2009 to January 5th, 2021. It's 12 years I did for armed robbery. My experience was a spiritual journey, overall. It was a enlightened time. I learned a lot. I went in at a young age. A major gap was taken out of my life. So I had to force myself to make it as productive as possible. I had to force myself to see the beauty in the pain of everybody else's. I'm real observant. In prison made me even more observant, because you had to be observant in prison. You had to keep yourself safe. You had to be on survival mode 24/7. And you had to watch people. You had to watch their movements. The people moving funny, moving flaky. You had to be very alert, very aware. So you can imagine what being in that mode, how it affected my psyche throughout those years. But for my first video, to give y'all a start, I wanted to give y'all a little background on who I am, where I'm from, how my life was coming up, and how I ended up serving 12 years. First off, my family was, a well-off family. My father was actually a well-respected, very successful real estate investor who, he owned nearly 100 homes in Atlanta that he had, rental properties. He had a net worth of, $4 or $5 million throughout my whole life, the majority of my life. But my father was a very, very frugal individual, to where I thought we were poor. I thought that we were poor growing up, just because of the way that my father didn't like to spend money. And I never knew the extent of his wealth. He always made us work for whatever we wanted. We wanted some new shoes, or we wanted a basketball goal or a video game or whatever. He would always send us out to his properties to clean them up, cut the grass, do the yards, or evict people, help him, pack people's stuff up out of the properties, and different little things. So we worked for pretty much everything that we wanted, which was good. That built, a good character within us. We had to earn everything that we wanted, so that we wouldn't gain any type of sense of entitlement or anything like that. And I always thought we were poor because, my father would send me to school in the beginning of the school year with like 3 outfits from like Sears or something like that. Sears don't got no name brand stuff. So back when I was coming up, you had to have the Jordans, you had to have, a month worth of clothes, a good month wardrobe, where you don't have to wear the same thing again for another month or so. That's, we was real big on clothes coming up, in my era. I guess that's something that never really changes. So, he always drove this little raggedy little pickup truck, a little box Chevy, like an 80s something. Box Chevy was rusted and made noises when it drove, and smoking and stuff. And Yeah, I just always assumed that we didn't have much and we were barely making it. You know, we were in a decent little neighborhood, you know, on the south side of Atlanta, a city called Riverdale. Was, you know, it was suburb, you know what I mean? But I always thought that we were struggling to make ends meet. That's how he made it seem. So I didn't grow up. People always ask me, like, you know, how is your father a millionaire and you end up in prison? You know what I mean? So I didn't grow up with the average, you know, rich kid mentality because we didn't grow up like that, you know. So I was always had a little hustle about myself, you know what I mean? I always, you know, I used to push the lawnmower around the neighborhood to make a couple of dollars cutting people's yards and stuff like that. You know, I got a job as soon as I could at like 14, 15 or something like that. I mean, I worked at Taco Bell, was my first job. Then I worked at Six Flags, you know what I mean? And that was a fun, you know, it was more of a hangout more than a job, you know what I mean? So when I really, you know, I dropped out of high school first. That was, you know, one of the first turning points in my life. When I dropped out like in the 10th grade. I think I was like 16 or something. But you know, in school, you know, I never got good grades. I used to sell weed in school. Used to skip class all the time. I would go to school because my school was in walking distance. So I would, my parents would be gone. Well, at this time I was living with my mom, but my mom would be gone for work before I go to school. So I would wake up like 10, 11 o'clock, walk to school, sell a couple of weed sacks, and then just leave school, you know, walk back home with some of my friends or some females or whatever. So when I dropped out, I moved in and got a place with my brothers. It was two of my brothers. We had a little place in East Point, and you know, that was a good time, you know. But soon, you know, I started to get more and more involved in the streets, without even really needing to. I was just drawn to the streets. My father used to always tell me, you know, you are what you eat. You know, he used to always warn me about the people I hung out with and warn me about the music that I listened to. And I know that rap music and stuff like that had a heavy influence on me, you know. And that was one of the main things that pulled me in that direction, you know. Of course, I take responsibility for my actions. You know, I'm just giving you a glimpse of what my influences were. So I found myself, you know, in the roughest parts of Atlanta, really not having no business there, really, you know what I mean? I didn't have no business there, you know what I mean? But just going there, hanging out with the people there, selling crack to people, you know what I mean? And I remember I got robbed. I remember the first time, well, I got robbed one time, and I got robbed by a couple of gunmen who, you know, robbed me. You know, they got like $300-400 off me, and maybe another $300-400 worth of drugs and whatever. But from that point, that's when I started robbing. You know, it took me to get robbed for me to say, you know what, I'm not finna be out here in these traps, in these hot ass roach infested abandoned homes, hanging out with these J's, with them acting crazy, you know, all day to make $300-400 when I can just rob in 5 minutes. You know what I mean? I'm gonna take your shit. So I adapted that mentality and I started robbing. You know what I mean? It started off just robbing random people, seeing people walking down the street, you know, pulling out on them, robbing people at the ATM, you know, just hot shit, man. Just not thinking, man. Just wanting to be a gangster, you know what I mean? Wanting to, you know, be like the people who I saw documentaries of, you know, Rich Porters and Al Poes and Rayful Edmonds and Maserati Ricks and BMF and all these different people who you saw, you know, in the documentaries and whatever. I wanted to be known as a gangster, you know what I mean? And I saw guys, you know, I had plugs, suppliers who I would go buy drugs from, who I would get real cool with, and they had, you know, the flashy cars and the jewelry and all the stuff. I wanted that, you know what I mean? So it was like, on the one hand, I saw people like my father and his friends who were all multi-millionaires doing their thing with real estate and different business ventures and such. And I saw that on the one hand, but then I saw this fast life on the other hand, and I chose the fast life. Do I have any regrets? No, I don't have any regrets, because I understand what life is. My understanding of life, there is no reason for regrets. Everything happens for a reason. Everything is a part of your growth and progress. So it just is what it is. So, shortly after that, after I started robbing random people and getting $20, little small amounts, I was like, okay, I can't keep risking my freedom and my life with this little pocket change. So I started setting people up. So it started out with setting people up. I would, send my girlfriend at the time. I would send her to a club. We'd go to a club, and I would pick out a mark, somebody who looked like they had money, somebody with a nice chain or something. And I would send her to go talk to them, and she would go dance with them and flirt with them or whatever. And then eventually, she would say she need a ride home or whatever, and they would give her a ride. And then, I would follow them in the car, and, we would jump out on them, whenever we got to where we wanted to take them. And it started out like that, until eventually, I started, setting people up on Craigslist. And that's actually what I got sent to prison for. I was one of the original Craigslist robbers. I was setting people up on Craigslist with cars. This is like 2007, 2008. I would post up a car that I didn't even have. I would put usually I do like a Honda Accord or something, for like $3,000-$4,000 or something. People would be calling me about the car. And, I'd make sure that they bring the cash, because when I took the phone calls, the way I make sure they bring the cash is I tell them, well, yeah, somebody's, I still have the car, but somebody is interested in it. They want to come by and get it, at such and such time. But if you come before them and bring the cash money, you can get it. So usually people would hear that and they would say, oh, okay, just hold it for me. I'll be there in 30 minutes. I'll bring the cash. I'll give you $300 extra. Just hold it and whatever. So, I get them an address to some secluded place where there's nobody around, where I could do my thing uninterrupted. And, they would come out there. I normally tell them so that they wouldn't expect to see a car, because, I don't have the car. I tell them, well, look, come to this address, and the car is over here around the corner. Just pick me up from right here, and we're going to drive to the car. You know what I mean? So when they would pull up, I would get into their car. I pull out my pistol. You know what I mean? Yeah, I get their cash. I take their cell phone. I tell them to get out of the car. I get into the driver's seat, and I would take their car. I just take it around the corner to my car, and I just switch cars and leave their car and drive off in my car. And I was doing that. I was, I had successfully ran that little jug at least maybe 20 times before I got caught up. So I thought I was living. I thought I had a plan to where I thought I was invincible. I thought I wasn't never gonna get caught doing this. I was doing it so much, I was getting $3,000-$4,000 at a time, and blowing it. I'm going to the club and spending $1,000, $2,000 at the club, buying bottles, buying sections, and then getting the money right back the next day, so it wasn't nothing. I thought I was on top of the world. I was living fast, getting the fast money. I was enjoying my life at the time. To all my victims, it took me to really get locked up and get arrested before it really hit me like, damn, like, bro, you taking money from these hard-working people who, they work hard for their money. You putting pistols out on these people, traumatizing these people. Causing a lot of pain, a lot of traumatizing experiences, and I wasn't thinking about that. I was greedy, I was selfish, I was a coward, at the end of the day. If you pull a pistol out on someone, you're really being a coward, because if you pull a pistol out on someone and you're threatening their life, you have a person's life in your hands, so they're going to do whatever you requested them to do. So I feel like that's a real coward approach to anything, and it's just morally wrong. And, I hope that, my victims, can forgive me you know, and I hope that I didn't cause too many scars or too many, you know, traumatizing experiences on these people, you know. And I definitely, of course, you know, I learned my lesson from sitting down 12 years in some of the roughest prisons in Georgia, you know, that really opened up my eyes to a lot. So I eventually got caught, and I'll make a video, you know, explaining exactly how I got caught and exactly what went down with that. But so that's just a brief background of who I am, you know, how I ended up in prison, and you know, soon in future videos, you know, I'll go more in depth on the prison system and things that I saw. I didn't have a difficult time in prison. And prison is not like how the movies depict it. At least Georgia prison system isn't exactly how. Like it can get real violent. You know, there'd be a lot of stabbings. It'd be a lot of things like that. You know, you can get your stuff stolen, you can get robbed, you can get beat up and get jumped on and stuff like that. But I didn't really have a difficult time. I didn't really have any trouble. I'll explain in other videos why that was. You know, at the end of the day, it was God. You know, God was with me the whole way, and that's really all I can chalk it up to. You know, because I done had some instances where things could have went real bad, and God, I know that God stepped in and made it, you know, to where, you know, it was a smooth journey, you know, the whole, I didn't have no troubles, you know what I mean? So yeah, you know, that's pretty much it in a nutshell on this one. Like this video, you know, subscribe to my channel. I'm gonna have some real interesting stories to share. We're gonna learn some stuff. I'm gonna tell you some of the wisdom that I learned from these stories. You know, I'm gonna tell you a lot of the things that I view, you know, about these things, and give you an in-depth, detailed description of, you know, how prison is, why you definitely don't want to go that route. You know, my main goal is to, you know, help steer people into a different direction. You know, we're going to talk about other opportunities that, you know, there's so much to do in America these days. This is really literally the land of opportunity. We have so many different ways to get money that's easy, that's fairly easy at our disposal. You know, you just got to pick one and stick with it. You know, be consistent, be persistent, you know what I mean, and just believe in yourself, and the universe works with you, and it makes things happen. So yeah, man, like this video, subscribe to my channel, and there'll be more on the way. All right, peace.